Hi, 4th and 5th graders. We are going to continue this week to work on our ecoregion landscapes. Just a reminder, we're doing 4 different landscapes on our one large sheet of paper. Last week we drew the Cascade Mountains and the Columbia Plateau, and this week we are moving on to the Coast Range Mountains and Basin and Range. All right, so you should have your art from last week, and you are just going to flip it to the other side where you already added your labels, and then you just need a pencil. All right, so let's look at a picture of the Coast Range Mountains. So here we go. We see some nice mountains, cliffs kind of off to the side here, and a shoreline, and some big rocks in the ocean there. So just as we started our landscapes last week, we'll start with that horizon line. And in this case, the horizon line is going to be the line between the water and the sky. So I'm going to do this one a little bit at a diagonal because I like how in the photo the shore is kind of coming in at a diagonal. So that's going to be my horizon line. And then I'm going to add some of those big boulder rocks in the ocean to my middle ground. Remember, the middle ground is everything that's above your horizon line, and then the background is behind that, so the sky here. And I think I'll add to my sky a nice big sun. Remember, we're trying to do our skies a little bit different since we're doing so many. So get creative with colors that you use next week to make them different. All right, and then I'm gonna add those mountains that are off to the side here that are gonna kind of be blocking this part of my water. So I can come in and erase those lines. And then we have our sand meeting the water here. So I'm just gonna put some lines showing some texture. Maybe some little grass plants in the beginning. And that's about it. This is gonna be really come to life when we add color. That's when a lot of our details will be added. All right, so moving on to our basin and range, which is the desert. Let's see. Here's our photo. So you can see it also has these mountains, but they're much more flat, wide, and then this desert scape here, which is full of sagebrush. So we're gonna add sagebrush, and like we did with the grand fir trees, we're gonna label that as well. And here's a photo of the sagebrush. Really big, heavy stems, pretty wide. All right, so let's get started with that. I'm gonna start by adding my horizon line, which is just below my flat hills. Yeah, that's a little bit too high. I'm gonna go a little bit lower. And then I'm gonna add those big flat hills, mountains. All right, so we have our mountains in our middle ground, and then in our foreground is going to be all of that sagebrush, like in the photo there. So I'm gonna draw a few of those. And when we're adding these details to the foreground, everything that is closest to us, just like we did with the trees, is going to be larger. This is the closest in our view, so this sagebrush is what we see largest. And then as we get further out, they'll get a little bit smaller. And we can do some tiny ones that are way off in the distance. You can scatter these around. and then make sure that you put a label somewhere around your sagebrush. All right, so I'll probably keep adding a few more, but you get the idea. And then our background, I think I'm gonna leave this background as is and add some interesting color to it when we do color next week. So that's it for today. Once you're all done with your landscapes in pencil, you can just put this somewhere safe, and next week is when we're gonna add the color. Have a great week.